Hello, Greta. We will be starting with your picture first. Let me know if the volume's all good or if it's too loud. Whoop. You already know, since this is perspective, we're gonna have to bust out those guidelines. Okay, let me turn on my light. Maybe it's a little too loud. Let me lower my volume. That good? I'm just gonna clip up my hair because we're going to work. Alright, tight. So we are back at those worm eye view perspectives, meaning we're looking at it from down below. So let me draw some guidelines that show you the vanishing point. I mean, I don't really know the vanishing point. It's probably far out here, but it's just an estimate. Hello, Misu. We are saving you for last, so you have some time to mentally prepare yourself. Work, work, work. Alright, so I see we have one line right here. Oh, I didn't even do this right. Okay, shape. Be careful not to have the shape on. So we have one right about here. I'm like finagling it. Then you're gonna probably have all of them gradually increasing in angle. Maybe something like that. I don't know. Depends on how like distorted you want the perspective to be. If you want it super distorted, then you may have a closer vanishing point like right here, and then we're gonna get much faster increases in the angles, something like this, and that creates like more of that perspective that you're super close to the person yet angled downwards, whereas this one is you're farther apart, farther away, like the vanishing point, and it's less of that angle. Okay, do you see the problem here, Greta? Snap the vanishing points? Yeah, I'm sure, I am sure Procreate is a lot more efficient than I am, but I am a control freak. And my Photoshop's super old, so I don't have those vanishing points, but it's fine. We'll work with what we have. But first things I see as the major issue, I'm just gonna merge these. What? Okay, that's so confusing. I'm gonna separate line work so I don't get confused. Now, where's that cat? It's in there. So why is the character line work including the cat, ma'am? Put that thing down there. Okay, bellissima. First things first, based on these vanishing points that we've just done, you're gonna notice that she does not follow this vanishing point. If you are at this perspective, all the characters are going to line up, meaning the height of both characters should fall upon this line right here, meaning this gal right here, my big mama right here, she's gotta be a little bit shorter. So she'll look properly far enough. See the difference? Instantly we get that perspective. So before she's a little too, she just looks like she's on the same plane as him, whereas now she's pushed back into that chair. Let's see how we can fix up some other stuff. Help with fundamentals. Dude, perspective is hard. So props to you for even trying to do it, Greta. Because each time we mess around and I destroy you, you are gonna get better at it, okay? Next thing next, when you are looking at a person sitting at this angle, you know what time it is. It's time to bust out trusty old Portrait Studio. But if you don't have Portrait Studio, the best way I like to think about it is try to simplify the person into like a box. So this is one box. Why is it so slow? I'm gonna close my Spotify, maybe that's running some memory. Okay, so if we think of her as a box, please Photoshop. You can't use up that much of my CPU. How was everyone's week? I know it's the Lantern Festival for us because it's almost the 15th on the lunar calendar, so we're eating lots of tongyuan, which is glutinous rice balls. Okay, get rid of this stage first. Alright, so this is probably your angle, and I'm just going to make her go into that pose. Make sure she looks like she's sitting in a chair. Shoop. She's probably a little bit more relaxed, so let's bring out her leg a little bit, make her look like she's a little bit of a spread eagle. And often when you are spreading your thighs that far, your legs are kind of gonna instinctually go in a little bit to compensate. Chinese New Year's orphan, that's so depressing. Oh god, no, what did I do to her arm? I'm just incompetent because I just destroyed that set. I'll time for next year. Honestly, for Chinese New Year, if you don't have like a huge family or anything, I would just suggest you just get some good food and call it a day. Most of the time, like the huge celebrations are mostly for like the really traditional families. And I'll be honest, I haven't done like a lot of very traditional dinners since like my grandma passed away, so to each their own. You celebrate however you want it, okay? Oh boy. Greta, do not go out on Chinese New Year. It's like you are going to not find any tables. You're better off either celebrating early or later if you do want to go out, but otherwise you probably want to just cook at home. Okay, how the heck does her arm fit? I don't even know what I did to this stupid arm. Ah. Portrait Studio is hard, but it does allow for a lot of nuances. So when you are bending this way, Has anyone watched the new Avatar live action TV show? Oh my god, please work with me, stupid arm. Not yet? Well, then I won't spoil too much. I'll just say that it's interesting. It's definitely better than the movie, but I don't know if it lives up to the original art cartoon. Like, I watched the first episode and I was like, don't know how I feel about it just yet. And then I went and saw some like critic reviews and I was like, ooh, that does not look good. The cartoon is just too good, Greta. It's hard to live up to it. But I thought they would at least try to keep some of the things the same. The children do not have bad wigs, but you can definitely tell this was made on a budget because the clothes, in comparison to like, say, big blockbusters, it's definitely not up there. Or it's like if you compare it to even just Wednesday, the show, I just feel like the costumes are kind of slacking. Oh yeah, the YouTubes, they're not entirely wrong. I do feel like the character personalities are slightly more mature than the show, the cartoon. The cartoon had a lot more humor, and I think just because they shrunk it down to this like 8-episode season, they did not have time to do a lot of these subtle character development, the show don't tell kind of things, and so that's where it's gonna hurt the most. Maybe her arm needs to be pushed back. Yeah, I think the One Piece and the live action, people enjoyed it, especially non-anime watchers, but I don't know. I feel like I always have a reservation watching live action and of any like anime or cartoon show, just because I feel like I always get disappointed because I have this conception that it'll be just as good as the original, and when it doesn't, it just hurts. Am I just dumb? Is that why I can't get this arm to look right? Or is just Portrait Studio not being kind to me? You know what? It's close enough. You get the idea. Doesn't matter. Okay, whatever, I don't care. We're close enough. So this is probably that angle. Let me just turn her face over a little bit more. I know her arm's not in the right place, but whatever, we're just gonna pretend it's about the right spot. And based on this angle, you're gonna see that you overlap a lot more the knee over the thigh a little bit, so I would just probably potentially, Let's hide this baby. Oops. Also, the sizing of her upper body. I'm very confused, Greta. If her lower body is supposedly this big, based on what you're telling me, then her upper body should be small too in order to match it. So let's shrink her down a little bit more. To say about this much, so that her torso size is actually matching where her hip and the waist right here. Pose time. Yes, it's pose time. You missed my whole shenagle about not being able to get the stupid hand right. I really think Portrait Studio is just really hard to capture like the really subtle natural movements because it's such a stiff model. Because in real life, when you are doing like these kind of what's it called, hand or leg or like limb on limb interaction, there's a lot of subtle like adjustments of the shoulder. The flesh gets kind of distorted a little bit by the other object, and it's just gonna be very hard to recapture that. So do take whatever you do with this in this program with like a grain of salt. Nothing will beat having real life references, so if possible, always use yourself as your own reference to the best of your ability. It's just when you really can't get like a certain angle, like if you can't stick your phone to the top of the ceiling for the top down angle, this is when you would use like these programs to help you compensate for that. But I would say for this type of pose, you most definitely could just put your phone down on the floor and take a picture of yourself in a chair with like a little table, and you could just get that pose down there. Just make sure the lighting is good so you can see the pose really clearly. Okay, let's put this over here, and I'm gonna shrink down Photoshop a little bit. Okay, so this angle, correct? We're gonna have to push the arm forward a little bit in order to kind of showcase that her arm is pushed like this, like this, unless she's somehow doing this, which is really awkward. It's too close to her body. You never really prop your hand up on your chin like that, so you're gonna have to push it out a little bit, okay? And in doing so, you're gonna see like this part gets really exaggerated because it's so pushed forward towards us. And you might get more of that side of the body. And I'm gonna push the knee up just a little bit. This top knee should be higher than the other one. Okay, don't have them lined up. Should be, again, same angle as the shoulder. And because I did mention when you push your knees out like that far, you're naturally going to want to push your inner leg this way instead of outwards, just unless you're trying to do the whole cutesy schoolgirl legs cross thing. Otherwise, if you are a boss bitch, you are going to man spread the shit out of this. So we're going to push her leg inwards, this way. And that way you kind of get this extra force into our perspective with her foot. You don't have to show the whole foot either. And then based on this little outline that I made here, you're gonna see that it doesn't line up with her chair. And so once again, we are going to have to shrink her even a little bit more in order to line up with all our guidelines that we have. This is gonna be hard. Let's see. Okay, maybe the best way to do this is I do warping. I'm gonna separate her from the rest of them. We're gonna push her leg up more in order to match where the seat is. And the next thing I'm gonna do, we're going to then use liquefy to fix up that knee position. We're gonna make that right, this left knee right here, or her right, line up with our guidelines and the angle of her shoulder. So her angle of her shoulder would make her left, this left or right knee, whatever you choose, higher than the other one. And I'll also take the time to make her man spread some more. So we're gonna scoot this leg this way. Oops. I'm also gonna shrink her head just a tad, teensy binsy bit. And while we're still here, we're gonna fix up the proportions of the head. If she's turning her head this far up, her forehead should get smaller. Oops. Her forehead should get smaller, so it gives that perspective as her face moves away from us. And I'm just scooting her eyes over more to the left because her chin, middle of her chin, is right more on the left side, so don't have her eyes on the right. And again, the angle of the mouth, be careful. Same with the ear, don't make it too big. It should line up with the edge of the nose. So if you can imagine a curve based on the curve of the eyes, curve of the nose, it should line her ear up. Okay, before, after. See how it pushed the perspective a little bit more? And let me give her some shoes right here, so it pushes into our perspective more. I do like your leaves though. They do look good. But that's the only comment you're gonna hear from me today, because you are making me do perspective, Greta. So I'm mad at you. Okay, so let's fix this arm. Push this baby up. All that monthly challenge for that foliage is paying off, Greta. Okay, here is her jaqueto. Again, super baggy, so whoop. Whoops. Color this whole thing right here. Oops, really? It's not closed? So that's going to be the hood part. We get some folds right here. And then you're going to get like one major fold right here based on where the hood kind of overlaps, and then you're going to get a whole bunch of smaller crinkled up folds based on where the elbow kind of creases. we're gonna clarify that the shoulders will slope a little bit. They're not too super square like this. Even if she is muscular. Slopes just a little bit more before it comes back down. For that spicy deltoid. And you want to be careful about the midline of the body. So for her head is lined up this way, but her body should be lined up based on where her middle of the pants is lined up. So if her middle of her pants is here, then this collar right here should be more towards the right side. Her breasts should also face more towards the right, unless they're super split apart like frog eyes. So let's fix that real quick. And also be careful with her neck. I know stylized wise you want her neck to look dainty, but you do want to make sure it's still connected to her head. Especially since she turned this way, she's gonna get that strong neck muscle right here that overlaps the rest of her collar. And it's gonna create this kind of angle, this kind of curve for the collar. And then we get that side mandarin collar. And make sure to have her arm overlap because she's pushing it forward like this. So this shoulder right here, this shoulder right here. Do you see how it kind of overlaps the breast tissue over here? So you're not gonna see much of that breast. You'll see more of the shoulder instead. I know foundations can be super boring, but sometimes you just gotta take one afternoon or whatever to work on some of them. You're not gonna improve on them instantly, but over time you're gonna notice the difference. It'll be easier for you to kind of instantly draw your poses too. And same for right here. Everything is turned over, Greta, so the wrinkles on her shirt also gonna get turned over this way. Her arm also has that round curvature. She's not a flat object. She needs some roundness to her. And if you are going to keep line work, do make sure you pay attention to the line weight. This is not a lesson that we have, but maybe we'll talk about it in one of these tutorials. But it does help to create a little more personality, a little more interest. And it's probably something I'll also talk about again with Misu's critique today, since he's doing black and white. Especially if you're just doing black and white, you want to make some things interesting. And either you do that, it's like that reel on Instagram, you either do it, if it's not interesting, through pattern, you've got to make it interesting through color. If it's not interesting through color, you gotta blah 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 blah. I hate that stupid reel, but it's also kind of interesting. I can't stop watching it. Okay, so let me put this on a different layer real quick. And we're gonna just examine how her breasts are gonna sit over her body. So you see how her breast kind of hangs over her waist? And that's because when you are kind of... It's so off topic, but some of them are really so ugly. And I'm like, that doesn't even match with the prompt. Okay, not distracted. Okay, so when you are bending over to do this pose, especially when you're really relaxed, your upper chest hangs over your waist. So we have to make it seem like that's happening here. So one thing we can do, we're going to push her upper body. Oops. I'm gonna push her upper body forward a little bit. Just a little bit. in order to create that perspective that she's kind of crouching over. And then I want to make sure I tuck in her waist right here. We're going to talk about how fabric hangs over real quick, okay? But I'm just going to color this in real quick so it doesn't look empty. A lot of issues here, but I'm just going to ignore it. We're going to color it. Okay, so if we colored it like this, so you want to make sure that this part is in front, and then this part, I might have pushed this too much. Okay, this part gets tucked in just like how you see here. This part you don't see, but the jacket should still somewhat showcase a little bit of that curve of the waist, especially right here where the jacket doesn't have so much excess fabric. And let's just double check that. Let me take a look at her outfit real quick. I forgot if she wears waist high pants or hip rise pants. I think it's like mid-waist. Okay. So if her hip is right here, we're just gonna bring up that waistband a tad bit. And you're not gonna see the crotch area because see how you don't see it here? It's the legs gonna cover it. So let me get rid of guidelines so I don't confuse myself more. And one way we're going to create the illusion that she's bending forward is we're going to create this kind of overlap swooping curve in her jacket here to kind of mimic the outline of her waist. That way you still get the idea that she's sort of bending that way without compromising the jacket's kind of original kind of structure. Now let's talk about hanging fabric real quick because it's kind of going to affect how we fix this area right here. So fabrics are another beast of its own, but it's something you kind of have to just force yourself to learn. And when you're doing studies, kind of pick up little tips about what it is that is causing the fabrics to look like this. So what do I mean? You have to understand the physics behind it. So when your jacket is over here, it's going to bend and drape over the knee a little bit in order to react to it. Okay, same for this one. When she's bending like this, her jacket would actually go out instead of in. Though I guess it could go in, it's just gonna have a little bit more of a straight line right here. Since it's hanging down, there's nothing disrupting it. It shouldn't have any random bends. The only time it'll bend is if it's on top of the knee right here, right? And it's gonna bunch up to create that kind of weird fold. See the difference? Her arm is going to be right underneath here, so it's not going to matter to us. We're going to create some folds right here to respond to how the jacket drapes along the side of her body. And what is going on here though? You're gonna want to make the jacket look like it's wrapping around her, so that means we're going to curve up a little bit, not too much. Bring down the thigh, since you see here it's pretty big, goes all the way almost to the side of her calf. So that means we get to see a little bit more of the under thigh based on this angle. So we're gonna also have to fix up the chair angles a little bit. See our guidelines. So we're gonna follow this guideline right here, making sure that we line it up with her underside of her thigh. And if it's this type of angle right here, Greta, this is gonna get overlapped, especially since we're not seeing it from like far below or far up above. So there's going to be some more overlaps happening when you're looking at things straight on. If it's offset, it's usually because you have such an extreme angle that it's going to offset it more. And also, you need to make sure you have more chair leg. This chair is so weak. It's not standing up properly. This leg should be right here instead, properly, far enough. Don't have it too close together, or it's gonna topple over. See the difference? I would also be careful about making sure this shape right here is like a mini diamond. So when you're drawing any simple object, whether it's like a chair, a table, a basic pot, break it down into simple shapes. If you can't imagine the angle in simple shapes, then you're not going to be able to imagine it as the object. Okay, let's go back to our original object, which is our girl. Let's talk a little bit more about folds, especially right here. This part is fine, but when you have such clumped stuff like this, think about how your pant leg clumps up. It clumps up with one major fold right at the bend of the knee, and then afterwards it's a lot of smaller folds, correct? They're gonna also vary in direction, don't have them all pointing in the same way. When it gets farther away from that original bend, then can you have some sloping longer curves. And these lines right here happen because the pant leg is nice and flowy and it's draping over the original leg. Same for right here, drapes over the calf section right there. And when you draw these, you want to make sure the line's not too connected or it looks really dumb. So break up the shape a little bit. So if you have like two folds next to each other, sometimes one fold is gonna take dominance over the other. And let's make sure we get this fold right here in the thigh area where she's really bending a lot of her clothes. Same for this side, you see the pant leg fold. You start with where the bend of the foot is, then you add some smaller ones next to it. And then you decide how wide like her pants are. Are they bell shapes? Are they skinny jeans, slacks, etc.? And that's going to determine the types of folds you're going to draw inside the pants. Okay, maybe her foot is on that side. I use thicker lines to kind of imitate a shadow. I would also argue that maybe with these types of clothes, if it's so skin tight, she's not going to have that many wrinkles. It's very subtle. She might have some wrinkles around her neck area right here, maybe on the top of the chest as the fabric is stretched over her breast. I feel like you're also missing the opportunity to give her back her gloves. For her other hand at least. You can, I don't know, hint at it right here. Something like that, I don't know. And you really need the knuckles here, or else the hand doesn't look like a hand. Okay, we did have a hand lesson, a hand tutorial, so go back and review it if you need to. Alright, so that's her edits real quick. She also has a lot of darker hair underneath here, so be careful. She also, over here, her bangs are not very strong. She has more of her hair pulled back. So to showcase more of that part of her hair, her bangs can get smaller just a tad bit, like that much. See how she looks a little bit more like her character now? Now for our other buddy, or perspective issues. What happened to his arm? Greta, what happened to his arm? Okay, we're gonna hide this model right here and we're gonna do another one. I'm confused too. What is going on? Again, he's gonna man spread himself because these characters are very loosey-goosey, happy-go-lucky characters. They don't give a shit about what's personal space, as long as it's their personal space. Eesh. Bend. So, man spread that baby. I'm also going to turn on camera lighting, so we're not worrying about the lighting as of yet. Now my question to you is, what did you intend for him to do? Maybe his arm is going to be on the back of his chair? That's the only way I can argue for you, Greta. If that's the case, let's twist his upper body towards us. Okay, that makes more sense. In that case, we're gonna bring his arm back over. Same for the elbow. We're gonna Shoop. Nice. Work with me. And down. And then let's turn his neckaroonie to us. Let's just throw that other arm into rust mode. Oh my god. And again, if I am having him slouch, let's see, how can I have him slouch some more? Which spinal point am I gonna do it? There. Then we're gonna bring down the arm in order to match it. Something like that, perhaps. Let's see. Okay, maybe something like that. And now I'm gonna hide the joints. Now let's try to replicate this. So first things you're gonna notice, we have to follow that same angle as the table right here. So that means for his shoulders and his hips, we're gonna try to match it up. Similar angle, similar angle. Knee is higher than this one. This leg is gonna be lower than this one. So let's do some manipulation. Let's throw in another layer and we're gonna draw in the arm real quick. And when you draw this, you're gonna notice right here, first off, this shoulder is gonna basically hide everything here. You're not gonna see jack shit. It's because it's so perspectively, beautifully pushed at this perspective, that this shoulder is basically gonna say, hello, goodbye, I am the main character. Don't you fucking dare try to argue with me. So I'm gonna use a different color so I can actually see what the hell I'm doing. And in that case, let us do a little bit of manipulation so he doesn't look like he's so pushed back that much. I'll still probably have to do some manual fixing, but we're gonna try to get him look like he's sitting up a little bit more. Honestly, if the colors are great, you can kind of hide it a little bit, but of course anatomy is going to be a huge like tell when you are looking at a picture. Like if the anatomy is not right, anyone can immediately say like something doesn't feel right in this picture. And if you are putting like the arm over the chair's got to take precedent. Chair's gonna get that priority mail, okay? I would even suggest we make this chair on a different layer to make your life easier. I'm gonna put it in front so that way no matter what you do, you're never going to go over the chair by accident. And let's just throw in his hand. It's nice and relaxed. We're not gonna worry about the fingers just yet. We're just gonna throw in a little blob. So that's his arm. We're gonna fix up the torso right here. What is that? Someone followed me? Potentially. Whoever you are, welcome, welcome. We're gonna get that Dorito shape, okay? So he can look buff as shit. So that means even with his clothes, this upper torso should be stretched to the sweatshirt in order for him to look buff. Otherwise, we're kind of just out here playing games. I would also kind of push his face down a little bit more. So we're gonna cover up the face that you drew. Sorry, Greta. The angle's just not right. And no matter what I want, I can do, I just can't fix the face angle like that. I promise you it'll look better once we fix it, okay? We're gonna cover it up. Also for his hair, we're gonna make sure his ear is in the right spot. First things first. We're gonna make sure his face is less raised up. There's less of that under chin right here. I'm not gonna worry about his bangs just because that shit's gonna cover up his face anyway. So I want to make sure his angle of his face looks right before we do anything with that section, okay? Then let's put this on a different layer so I'm not confusing the hell out of myself. This is that angle. This is that middle of the midline of the face. So we're gonna use this midline to kind of create the perspective that the eye should go. So his eyebrows here, eyebrows here. Oops. Okay. Eyes should be tilted facing that way. Let me find a reference picture of him. He also doesn't have dark black eyebrows, so I'm just gonna cover that up. Arch of the eyebrows lines with the arch of the temple right there, the side of the face. And then in order to match the artist's style, he has a pretty square jaw, even though he's kind of one of the cutesy characters, not the hot type of characters. And so then we're going to see that the shoulder should be sitting right here, okay? Let's make sure it lines up just right. There we go. Shoulder. Merge that baby down. Oh, I didn't even do it in the right layer. Okay. Merge that baby down. Yeah, there's the really cute, very adorable, funny characters, and then there's the, like, your classic shonen, like, I'm going to adventure and get everything done. And then there's your really hot, very cool characters, the ones that everyone simp after. The kind of psycho, you should not be allowed to exist kind of characters. But boy oh boy do they sell very well. My newest job. It is tiring, so that's why I'm kind of slow on things art-wise. Still trying to get into the hang of things, so trying to figure out a good balance or a good schedule to do art and stuff. I'm trying to make it look like he's like, I don't know, oh, super happy go lucky vibes smile moment. I know he has higher eyebrows, so I'm like trying to find that good eye balance between accuracy for realism and also the animus. Let's get that arch in there, baby. Ooh wee. Let's see. I need some more references of how this artist likes to simplify their shapes. Okay. He basically gives this guy no eyebrows when he's drawing him in the manga. So I guess we're gonna keep that. RIP this guy. Okay, and if we don't make him smiley, we're gonna still trying to make sure these are lined up somewhat. You can always adjust them. Some shit like that. I don't know. I can't tell from this angle anymore. I'm going crazy. His eyebrows are so tiny. I'm just looking at this one reference picture right here. It's atrocious. I'm so sorry for him. He's get like tattooed eyebrows or some shit. Okay, I'm just gonna make him look a little bit more masculine by getting that sharp jawline. Okay, and then make sure the ears line up with that angle. Meaning if I draw an imaginary curve from the nose, ears should line up. Same for the eyes. And I believe he has pretty big ears because the trope is cutesy characters get that big ear, right? Yeah, big round ears. Big round ears. Give him some nice spicy ears. Honestly, his eyes could be bigger. Let's go bigger. Make sure it's not too far apart. You're still having it higher than the rest of higher than the other eye. And there you go. Let us do the hair real quick. trying to make his stupid eyes as big as possible because that's apparently the vibe. Okay, the hair we're going to tackle on a different layer so I don't F this up. His hair is very shaggy, so we're gonna need to bring down his bangs to about say around here. His bangs will overlap a little bit over here. He has one major section over here, so one section right here, some smaller sections over here, so we're going to connect these using smaller ones. And when you draw hair, you want to group things up, so if we have small section, you want to balance it off with a bigger one next to it. And based off of this one big section, he has a lot of smaller ones that are overlapping on top of his hair right here. And these black sections right here is the hair curling up, because that's how the artist apparently likes to stylize it. And we're gonna create an interesting profile, meaning you're gonna have a good balance of big and small shapes. So one section right here might be some big ones, then you have one in a slightly different direction, bigger chunk, smaller chunks like this. Same for up here, we're gonna make sure he has spiky hair. Let's get some bigger spikes over here. You can even, I don't know, group this one big chunk right here. And make sure you start going in the opposite direction as you turn around the head. And his hair is pretty volume-wise, very big. So don't be afraid to go past his head, skull shape. Just know that the general vibe of the whole head is going to be this whole triangle shape. That's how you want to think about when you're drawing hair, is trying to think of like a general shape for the hair. So we're gonna make sure we follow that shape. So no matter how many big or small ones that we do next to them, it still kind of stays within this sort of boundary, so you're not going too wild over it. He has some really close hairs right here, okay? So let us erase away some of these on the outside so I can adjust it accordingly. I know the hair's not perfect, Greta, but we're just gonna get the idea right now, okay? Hello, Artie. Yeah, like since he has such big eyes, you kind of have to forget the realism of his proportions. You kind of have to say, fuck it, he's a doll. I'm gonna have to draw him like a doll, meaning we're gonna have to basically cover about half of his face with his eyes, shift his nose down a little bit, make his mouth smaller than it normally would be, and even make his forehead potentially non-existent. And you kind of get away with that because the bangs are kind of covering it up, so you don't know that his forehead is way smaller than it should be. So you get Dorito Boy. Look, Dorito Boy. And I believe these parts of the hairs are in shadow. There's like some more hair flips here. I guess you could add them if you want. Just make sure they're not too close to each other. Vary them a little bit. Okay, let's merge down this hairline layer, and then let's just add a few more spikety dudes. And you'll notice this is skinny, and then I balance it off with some fat ones right there, okay? So hair right here, you can even decide, like maybe I want some sections to overlap another. That way to make it more interesting, instead of having them all in one single layer. Because let's be real guys, your hair is many different layers, especially if you get like those popular haircuts right now. They're very, very layered. Okay, and let's hide away that stupid Dorito shape. Hide that away, and voila, we got ourselves haircut. Once we flip it over, is it gonna be a mess? It's not too bad. We can adjust it a little bit. Let's do a little bit of liquefy. Slight shift. I'm kind of bothered by the lack of direction for this hair right here. I'm gonna push it forward so I get more of that direction. Okay, even though I still hate it, it's a little better. Okay, something like that. Let's finish off his overall body because we can't just focus on his face. I know, I know. Here's my music, my music. Let's finish up and make sure he's got that spicy collar. Where's my reference photo? It's there. Okay, so his collar is pretty big, so it's gonna actually take up a big chunk of his clothes and his chest. So we're gonna stick it down here. And make sure this tapers down in order to reflect that, especially even if it's like the baggy jacket, it's going to follow the shape of the body a little bit. Where's the hood? God damn. Hood's right here, overlaps. And because the shoulder overlaps, the chest right here follows along with it. And I believe he has pretty baggy jacket, so shoop. Only time you'll see a little bit of overlap is where the elbow kind of sits on top of the chair, so oops, no, don't do that. So I'm just gonna erase a little bit of the chair, like maybe right about here. Right about here where the elbow and a little bit of that upper forearm, you're gonna see it. Otherwise, and then he has that folded part of his jacket or something, I don't know, some shit like that. again, because his arm is facing away from us, you're gonna see the back of his arm. Don't give me the front of his arm, okay? I will actually get mad, Greta. Okay, you can figure out the hands. I'm too lazy right now to draw his hands. Everything, general ideas like there. His hand right here is probably gonna get hidden a little bit more. Since it's farther away from us, the table is going to help you hide some of that stuff. And again, with fabric folds, just quick reminders. Where's my blank? Right here where the leg is, the jacket's gonna follow that draping effect. And your leg's gonna push out a little bit more. One thing you're gonna notice is his leg is way too small. So let's make sure we make it more proportional with the rest of his body. So let me do a little bit of liquefy so we can fix this baby up. Oops. I'm gonna shrink the upper body just a tad bit. Scooting his eyes over, they're too close together. They look so weird now that I'm looking at it this way. And then other thing you have to do is we have to make the leg a little bit bigger, a little bit longer. And it might overlap her just a tad bit. Again with the man spreading thing. Something like that. Oh, where's my black? Trace this real quick to make it look somewhat clean before we move on to the next one. Okay, so that might be something how you might approach fixing up the perspective for this one. This one's not too bad. I just want you to caution making sure her shoulder is high enough, especially if you're doing that angle, and make her a little bit smaller because she is outside, opposite angle. Unless you plan to make her super close, but even then. If the table's going this way, she should be a little bit smaller. So let's just make her smaller. Like maybe this much. Okay. And hide a little bit more of her neck right here as it's turning away. Alright, so let's go back to our before. After, perspective wise, we got a lot more interesting perspective. Our characters in the right spots. We can see them going back in space. I didn't fix up the background right here, but you can do that yourself. I would just, last minute thoughts is make sure you maybe make this plant a little bit bigger so you have less of that empty space from the border. Here, let me do this like this. I'm gonna duplicate it and just add a little bit more foliage. Like maybe right there. Erase away some of it. This is the shittiest way to add foliage, but you get what I mean. Because it's too empty right there, you want to help you unify the picture a little bit more. Don't have such a obvious framing of your composition. Maybe have some things go off the page a little bit, so it kind of draws the viewer's eyes back to where you want the attention to be. Maybe right here you could put like the calendar instead of over here, because I feel like I don't really notice this part right here. This part right here. This is not my attention. This is not what I draw my eyes towards. I would rather feel like I could focus a little bit more over here. Okay. So before, after. Okay. Let's go to Sullivan's. Now I took a little bit longer with Greta's because she had a lot of things to talk about, and I think it's just good practice for everyone when we're doing perspective. For Sullivan, we will be talking about coloring and how to create some cool effects with his work. Woo woo! Let's go, Greta. Can't wait to see what you do with all those suggestions. It's gonna be a lot of work for you to fix it, but I believe in you. Maybe don't turn on your color layer just yet. Fix up all the line work, make sure the anatomy is correct before you go back to then color the proper way, or else you're just gonna want to kill just gonna end it all. Just give up on the piece. So first off, I'm gonna convert this into an actual layer, because right now what you see here is like a locked background layer, and it just means that it's treating it as like an object, like a JPEG or whatever, so it's not gonna let you edit anything. So you have to double click, convert it into an actual layer. And let me separate the background and the hand. I don't know what program you work on, Sullivan, but hopefully the tips I'm giving you are somewhat helpful and useful. I think that's part of the hand. And for all you other artists out there, make it into a habit just taking reference pictures of anything you see, like cool lighting, a cool plant, maybe a particularly hard pose, or something that you really think would look cool if you combine it with some other stuff. That's the best way to kind of draw inspiration and work through any art block that you might have. Okay, let's separate this baby. Layer via cut. When you're doing these kind of glowing effects, don't have it so obviously following the shape of the hand. You might want to do a little bit more broad shape. So that means we're just going to go in the general direction of the hand. I'm imagining that you have some kind of thing in the hand, so that's going to capture most of that light. And in that case, we're going to potentially make some places a little bit darker in order to reflect that sort of lighting, okay? So for the hand right here, let's throw in a multiply layer because that's the easiest way for you to fix this. We're gonna choose maybe a blue light. Actually, we'll stick with your yellowy grayish light in order to match the corner sepia toned, very steampunk vibe. And I'm just going to make this section down here a little bit darker so my eyes are not so drawn towards your wrist here. Instead, we're going to focus on the hand. We're also going to make the outskirts of the hand match that same darkness, so almost as if the hand blends into it a little bit more. And of course, if you wanted to not go so dark, other option is you make everything lighter, meaning let's duplicate this layer. You make this lighter. So say we want to go this much. To this much, and then I'm also going to maybe lighten this one up a little bit to kind of match it a little bit. And then you're just going to select that background color right here, and you'll just add a little bit to the edge right here in order for it to feel like it's like the shadow color and you're kind of losing the details of the hand. One way to make things cohesive in your color scheme is to try to have the background and the object colors match. Okay, so oftentimes you have the misconception, because when we're little we're like, oh, we just color things differently, right? But as you're getting more mature as an artist, you're going to realize that the background is related to your object. Big surprise. So it just means that you have to kind of treat your background in the same way that you treat your object, using the same colors, same lighting situation, same textures, same brush strokes. That way your whole picture looks cohesive, very uniform. Okay, so if you wanted to do it like this versus go darker like this, it's up to you. Honestly, I feel like for this piece, for the steampunk, very mysterious vibe, you would benefit from going darker. So let us just make things darker. So I'm gonna make the edges of the hand right here just go super, super dark, because I want to give form to the hand, okay? So anything that's not in the middle right here where you might have like a flame is going to cast that shadow. Same as we wrap around the edge of your hand, edge of your fingers, and already instantly you're going to see there's so much more form, right? So when you're shading like this, don't think of them as fingers, think of them as cylinders. So what's a cylinder going to do when you have a light source in front of it and no light source behind it? It's going to have shadow on the sides. Okay, and it's gonna get softer and softer, as it gets to the middle section of the cylinder, right? This finger is bent, so we're gonna give that some shadow. And right here, I'm just using a soft brush with slight opacity right now. Okay, and instantly, you got a lot more form in your hand, right? Now take a look at your hand right now. Just lift it up, okay? And what you'll notice immediately is that there is height differences to the fingers, okay? So first of all, what do you see with your thumb in comparison to your hand, your other fingers? It's that the thumb is a lot shorter than the rest of your fingers. So I'm gonna merge this down, and we're gonna try to fix your proportions a little bit in order for this hand to look very much like a hand. So we're gonna shrink this baby down to say here, and we're gonna bring these suckers up. I know they're bent, but try bending your own hand right now, your own fingers. Even when they're bent, these fingers, because they're so long to you, right? Is this the right angle? No, this way, right? If this is the hand that you're seeing right now, you see that, see how my thumb is still so much lower than my bent fingers? The only time they would be shorter than the thumb is you're fully closed, okay? Any other time, they're gonna be longer than your thumb. try doing it this way. I'm gonna make this part bigger. And you see it's slightly better, right? But still we're missing something, and that's if this finger is bent, why are the other fingers not bent, right? So I'm gonna make it easy for you because you're a beginner. We're gonna make it so all the fingers are not bent, okay? We're just gonna have them basically the same slight curve, not too much, just like this, okay? And you're gonna see it follows a nice hill shape from tallest to shortest. So this finger needs to get way taller, way bigger, ASAP. Number one finger, okay? Now we're gonna fix up all the other fingers just in the same way. So I'm gonna stretch these babies. And I'm making sure that I'm following that hill shape, okay? What the heck is going on with my chromatic aberration? And you want to make sure the bases of the fingers are a little bit fatter, so you have substantial weight to it, okay? And then let's make this pinky smaller. And already significantly much better as a hand. It's much more believable, right? From far away. Now, of course, there are lots of subtle differences in terms of how we can make the hand look like it's bending more for the fingers. Also, the thumb joint. Let us discuss it a little bit. I know some people don't have this flexibility in their thumb, so I will forgive you and I will let you say at least this much flexibility in the thumb, okay? Or else it just looks super, super flat. So, and I know this is like a machine kind of hand. So we want to give an opportunity to kind of show off the little in-between joints. And so you'll want to do it like this so you can see, oh, it's kind of sinking in a little bit. So this is not a normal hand. This is a machine hand, right? Unless, like, I don't know, this hand is supposed to mimic a real life hand, in which case disregard this advice, but you still need to make the thumb a little bit more bent here because you have that major kind of bend in the first joint. You have okay, so you have this big joint right here, right next to where the curve starts. Then you're gonna have that first thumb joint right here, and depending on how flexible you are or how long your first joint, that first part of your thumb is, some people have it bend like mine, super, super flexy. Some people are only able to have just a little bit, bend like here. Otherwise, you might even bend it a little bit more backwards, but relaxed, maybe just slight bend or bent, or you can do slight relax like this, okay? But never super straight up like this. No one's thumb is perfectly straight like this. You need some bend, either this way or that way, okay? And then, just as a note, take a look at where this bend of the hand lines up with this part. They're the same spot, okay? So we're gonna have to move this bottom part of the hand in order to line it up with this part of the thumb. If you don't line it up, it doesn't look like it's part of the hand. So when you're drawing the hand, make sure you start with that square shape, this palm shape first, so that way everything lines up before you move on to drawing the fingers, okay? just gonna bend the pinky out a little bit to make it feel like it's bending a little bit more relaxed like that. Okay. Okay, so before, after, you see how it's looking like a hand now? You're gonna finish off with just some basic shadow structures for the hand. Right here where you have like the wrist, you're gonna get a very major shadow. So maybe I'm gonna use a little bit more of this orangey color in order to create that bend in the hand. And then maybe right here you could do a little bit more of that highlight section, super light section, in order to create that kind of dip in the hand right here. Okay, it's catching some light on this side. Now I'm imagining 2 ways you can go about this. Okay. One way is we can light it up based on the joints that you have. So I'm going to choose an orange. I'm going to go into hard light layer. I'm going to go this right here. We have some light based on like the yellow sections of the hand. So your joints. Let's go just a little bit darker around this edge right here. In order to really make it pop up as like something glowing, you want to make things dark around it. I'd rather go darker than you think you would need, and then very subtle lightness. Okay, so light pops out a lot more. Okay, so you can have it like this. I don't like this idea right here. Okay, maybe those joints right there are all glowing. I'm being very subtle with this light right here because it'll shine the most when there's enough shadows. And then you might want to just add just a little bit, tad bit more shadows here and there. Especially in those shaded areas, like right here. Okay, so that's one option. Let's duplicate this baby. Other option is you have like a flame right in the middle. Not that it makes much sense, but hey, whatever. And this is really ugly flame, but I'm not going for natural. We're going for like weird elemental shit. Fires are usually lightest closest to the middle, and then it gets darker farther out. bright white in there. And you can drop some sparks. Okay, and maybe just make it a little bit more subtle. Okay, so second option is you make a little flame to create that kind of effect. I don't know what your intention was for this one, but here's your two options, right? So this one, where it's just the hands glowing right here, or you could have, there's a little flame. Just a tiny little fella. You could make it into, I don't know, make it a little bit more interesting by creating a object out of this. Maybe you could make it into a little dragon. Okay, I don't know. Or you can make it a little cat. Some weird cat or some shit. I don't know. Something for you to think about, okay, Sullivan? So let's just compare before, after, okay? Let's save this, and then we're gonna finish off with Misu. Calcifer. Oh yeah, you could totally make Calcifer. But I honestly don't know what the theme is for your picture. It feels very steampunk, mechanical kind of vibe. So maybe you don't like my flame idea, in which case, by all means, axe it. Is your picture. Just trying to give you suggestions to make it a little bit more interesting. But most important, please fix the anatomy. If you don't know how your hand should look like, use your hand, take a picture, or use your own real life hand, and just take and analyze like which parts are higher, which parts line up with each other, etc, etc. Okay, let's finish with Misu, because Jesse has shamed himself this month because he was too busy, unable to produce art for us. So we're just gonna do Misu, critique Misu's art, and let's see what references doth he speak of. Oh, so this is the artist you're speaking of, Misu, or this one. Yeah, that's my critique. Hopefully you did definitely take my inspiration for the black and white kind of vibe, which is honestly going to help you push through this work. So I do have to ask you, which one are you preferring over, say, A for this one, B for this one? Style rough. Okay. Then you're gonna notice that there's a lot of sketch lines in terms of for creating shadow. This one is very, very smooth and clean, meaning they're using full color, versus this one where they're using line work in order to create variations in value. So I do have to ask you, do you prefer the look of using line work for creating value like this, or would you prefer to have more solid value for the hair? The style rough. Okay, so let me show you how. There's this artist I love to follow. She uses great line work in order to create the hair. And I'm pretty sure if you've like been on the art YouTube since like the beginnings when like Ross was starting to get big, she was one of the ones that I also watched when I was younger. Sarah her. She does really great line work in terms of creating hair. Just look at that juicy line work in order to create hair, right? Her old stuff, but this, it's all reels. Everyone does reels now. Okay, this right here might be something we're interested in order to create the hair in the style that you liked. Because her hair is not white. Only white like the reference, but up to looking like a clay mobile. If you wanted to make it all white like the reference, one thing you're gonna have to do is you have to create more dynamic shapes instead of just doing the flat. This stuff uses a lot of the value work in order to create interesting shape. Whereas if you're just going to do line work like this, we have to work on our silhouette language. Bye bye, have fun walking Kino, give them lots of kisses from us. Okay, so if we are going to imitate that sort of style, helmet hair, very appropriate. Let's start with the shape, okay? So we're gonna figure out how we can draw a more interesting shape from whatever we've got here. I'm just gonna do the basic shape right here, get the basic bangs so I know where we're working with, and then afterwards we're gonna break up the shape a little bit in order to make it more interesting, okay? One way we can break up the shape is we can introduce the ears. And just make it so that her hair drapes down in perspective. And then let's start breaking up the shape. So maybe we have some stray hairs here and there. This one right here, first of all, very classic anime move. We have the hair dripping down out and about. Her braid isn't gonna be perfect, so instead of this round shape, maybe her hair has some lumps. Right? Maybe she has some hairs fallen out. She didn't have time to comb her hair through. And also her bangs don't, the top of where her bangs start, they don't sit up that far, Misu. What are you talking about? What are you tripping on? They should start here. If we have her head pushed forward like this, her middle of her head should be starting way farther up than what you have gone here. And also her bangs, we can make her bangs more flayed out. We don't have to follow the super sleek hair. I know it's sleek here, but you see she still has some hairs flaking out, right? So if you do want that neat bangs, I will give it to you, but we're gonna vary the bottom of the bangs, okay? We're gonna group the bangs up in different sections. So big clump, small clump, small clump, big clump. So we're not just having great test, Misu. didn't pass my eye. Okay, so maybe I'll clean her hair up a little bit. She doesn't have that mess of a hair. And let's hide your helmet hair, supposedly. And then we fill in some of those empty sections that I lost. Don't be afraid to make some of your cross-hatching a little bit bigger, so more space, so you can actually read it from far away. Because if you have such skinny lines, see how big these strokes are, the brush strokes? Okay, so yeah, that's fine. We can just tone down the hair a little bit. But then you have to actually vary the shape a little bit, so we're not making super round shapes for the head. Okay? See that? Bring the hair down a little bit. Slightly better shape. Alright? Not super boring anymore. And back to the cross-hatching. You see how big the line work is here? You do want to maybe consider using a little bit more of that big line work so you can read it from far away. Because if it's too small like this, it's very hard for us to read, especially when I'm zoomed out this far away. You want to make sure that your audience can see it from far away, even when we're zoomed out. And when we're changing directions for the shadow, try not to change it up too much. You want to make all the same shadows have the same direction crosshatch. So if the shadow is going this way, regardless of the shape of the shadow, you're still going to do hatch mark this way. You're just going to make sure it's longer or shorter or whatever. See that? Same for this one. If there's that shadow, we're going to keep it going the same direction. And instead, we're going to differentiate a little bit by using thicker lines. Okay, so you see how this artist right here also uses some thicker lines to help you differentiate the shadow between the border between the pants and the shirt. Same for the edge of the shirt right here too. So we're going to do the same thing right here. We're going to make some lines a little bit thicker. And instantly you have a lot more interesting things going on with your picture because we changed up the line work. So you can see me how I'm kind of just drawing and then erasing away the corners to create very tapered line work. So don't feel pressured to be able to draw that line perfectly the first time. You can always just erase it away and adjust it later on. So borders right here, we're going to exaggerate that line right here so we can get that really sharp shadow. Same for right here, we need to see the arm versus the shirt right here. So we need that line to be extra thick, right? And be careful around this area. Misu, this should be curved. She has a round body, not a flat one. Don't give me these shitty curves. You can do better. Same for these overlap folds. You can also thicken the line in order to create the illusion that this overlap will cast a shadow on top of the other object. Okay, so now we're going to clean up this line and then we're going to start doing a little bit of that shadow. Yeah, just kind of light hair. So you're going to start here, you go follow the curve of the hair. And you'll see I make it super dark in the corners. And then I guess I get farther and farther away. Maybe my line work is gonna get farther and farther apart. Same for idea for here. We're gonna start right here. We're gonna go over it a couple times. If you don't like the lines that you're making, erase it, start again. Because it's essential that you make sure that your lines are basically not overlapping too much, or it starts looking very much like cross-hatching instead of like hair texture, okay? Your misconception of what long hair looks like. What's your misconception? And you'll notice I'm not even doing all the little lines that this artist does. This artist basically colors everything except the highlights. That's very ponytail is her hair pulled back. Can't make the hair show from bottom to top. You are mistaken. It just depends on the way the hair is curving or like being tucked, so you get a lot more lines or stress lines based on, say, if my hair is kind of growing from here, there's like a little curve. That's why I would like to draw these curves right here in order to indicate there's a direction that the hair is growing. This middle section, you don't really need it because you have like kind of the illusion, okay, it's gonna follow the shape of my head, and then you want most of that shadow to concentrate again back in where your hair is tucked back into, say, like a hairstyle or behind your ears or another strand of hair. That way you can really capture the shape of the hair. So say if you have like straight hair like this with bangs, here's the face, you're maybe gonna want to focus your line work on the top of the hair and less so along the bottom, because really you already kind of have an idea of like where you're supposed to your hair would flow for these side streaks. You might just do a little bit right here along this where there might be a shadow, and this is where taking a look at like 90s anime artists is very helpful, because they do a really good job of like knowing where to put line work in hair without it looking like it's too much, you know. So they're really skilled at using the least amount of lines in order to create shadow in the hair, highlight in the hair, while also not just flat out coloring the whole hair and just erasing away the highlights. Okay, those would be reserved for like if you have like dark black hair, basically. Any other type of hair, they try to find a good balance between line work and light. And you see how with the bangs, I'm creating sort of a bowl shape. So we do come back to your favorite helmet hair, but it's slightly different, okay? I'm making sure some of my strands are longer, and they all start from this single point on the top of the bangs. If you can imagine it, if you do have bangs like that, they're gonna grow from that tippy top part of your head. They don't grow from different parts of your head, unless when you cut the hair, you cut it really ugly. But otherwise, most hairdressers, they try to focus on like the triangle zone to create the bangs. Same treatments for in V shapes between the hairs. These corners right here, sometimes you might want to vary the thickness of one of the hair strands in order to create a little shadow and an illusion and separate the hair a little bit. Just like that, see that? I'm gonna take my time to make sure I follow the direction that I set for the hair directions in order to create this really nice shadow right here along the behind the hair that's tucked behind her ear. And again, ooh, no, not that. This hair is going to be in front of that back hair. So front to back. Maybe this part's going to be in shadow as it curls inwards like that. I'm going to create an extra thick line right here, extra juicy line to help me separate the bangs from her sideburns. That side piece right there. And this is where you want to start making some of those lines in the bangs, like the bottom part, a little bit longer, because I'm starting to see it's a disconnect between this top line right here and the bottom. So occasionally I will connect some of these sections together in order for it to feel a little bit more uniform. Just to double check also that, you know, your hair is still following the direction that we drew it on the bottom. Because maybe it'll make sense on the bottom, but it doesn't make sense on top, so in which case, match it up. And on occasion, if you want to create a little bit of variety in the bangs, you can make it seem like there's like one strand of hair that's overlapping on top of another on the bang. Like that. It's optional, of course. And you just see me fix up the shape, making sure this curve lines up with the curve that I drew up on top, okay? Alright, let's just fix up her eyebrows because I destroyed it. You're also slacking with her eyebrow game, Misu. The hell are you doing to her? Give her a little bit more eyebrow, okay? You might want to make her eyes a little bit thicker right there at the outline, so you can really see it pop out from the rest of the shapes. She plucked too hard. You did pluck her too hard. She literally had no eyebrows. She had to tattoo them on. I like to make the line thicker at this top part because there's like a shadow cast from her eyelid. So that means there's going to be emphasized shadow on even the rings of her eyes. So we gotta reflect that in the line work. See the difference? The shadow? Let's also give her a little bit darker waterline so you can see the shape of her eyes better. Same for the mouth. Misu, you'll know what I'm talking about. We give line thickness variation. In order to indicate there's shadow. So underneath her mouth, shadow, so thicker line. Skinny to fat line. Right? A lot more shape and a lot more line language. Learn to use thickness of line in order to communicate interesting stuff for the viewer to look at, right? If your lines are all the same, your viewers are going to be like, ah, it's so bland, what am I supposed to focus on? You kind of have to treat your viewers as dum-dums and give them something to know where to look at. Like if I want you to realize that don't treat these things as the same, I have to define them, okay? Same for the hands. Let's see. Underneath where the hand is touching your face, it's gonna get that darkest dark shadow. Darkest dark right there, okay? And you can even do just a little bit of more cross-hatching to create a shadow in the eye right here. You're gonna follow the shape of the eye, okay? So what you're gonna do, you're gonna go curve, curve, curve. Use very small, very thin line work in order to create that. You need a smaller one than this one. In order to create that very delicate looking shadow underneath, and you're gonna focus more line work, more lines on this side, less lines on this side, and let it fade away. Same for this side. We're gonna follow the shape of the eye. We're gonna go curve, curve. If you notice any lines like this, erase them and fix them. You want to make sure they're relatively balanced out, not too overlapping. And you get a little bit more shadow just like that. You could also do cross hatching right here. You can go follow the shape right there, follow the shape of the shadow, and you can even curve it a little bit more as it nears the eye socket right here in order to create a darker shadow, and you're gonna crisscross a little bit. Same for right here. You can go up a little bit. Same for right here, just very subtle shadows. And you see how the eye kind of gets a little bit more structure? Do you think about the folds or her shirt? How to make something? Okay, so let me just talk real quick about the folds of her shirt. You see how here her shirt is very, very drapey, just like how I was talking to Greta about it. Let me hide these for real quick. We gotta reflect the shirt folds as though based on what the shirt type is, how thin the fabric is, and what's it doing. So this shirt is very thin. Because it's wrapping around her arm, this part gets stretched very much. So you're gonna get this fold right here that wraps around the shoulder. when you're bending your arm, your shoulder creates a little bit of a fold right here. You can kind of finagle it. It doesn't have to be a perfectly accurate shadow or fold, but we do get tiny folds right here. And from this fold, we get some subtle folds right there. Her arm needs to have more meat over here. Remember what I said? This part right here is overlapped by this forearm. So we're going to notice this is where the bend of the arm happens, right? So that means we're gonna have folds here. I'm gonna reflect that in our shirt. Some bigger folds farther away from the tension point, okay? Some spicy terminology for you. And really tight folds closer towards it. I'm gonna erase away a little bit in here because we do get some of that fold come out of the shirt a little bit. Just watch, make sure her hip isn't too sharp, Misu. Be careful. And let's just mention real quick, the angle of the shirt right here should wrap around almost like a circle because you're looking at it top down. So if you're looking at it top down, my wrist is almost a circle, right? So her shirt sleeve right here should also reflect that same language. And because it's so bent this way, you see how this part kind of gathers a lot of fabric? We're gonna have to reflect that kind of behavior in the fabric. It's gonna overlap on top right here, okay? Same for right here. Let's maybe make, I don't know, button right there. Erase away right here. And you get a lot more of that fabric flowiness going on right there, right? So that might be some way you can fix your shirt. Again, don't neglect the shadows that might happen based on line work. That will make your shirt look a lot better too. Finagle it a little bit. Then bring back your cross hatching. And you're gonna do some big cross hatches for these types of folds right there. Okay, so before, after, before, after. You see there's a lot more emphasis on very clean, very deliberate line work. Instead of kind of relying on, say, your values. Because relying on values is great and all, but if you are trying to create a very line-based drawing, you do kind of have to really understand what is the line doing for your picture, right? So what's the point of the line? Is trying to imitate the shape of this form, right? So for her hair, we're curving around the important parts. So the shadow areas, the top of the head, because we need to figure out where her hair kind of divides. Doing it here at the tension points. Same for the folds of the shirt, very tensiony points. Thicker lines indicate shadow and points of interest, points of division. So those are just basically stuff that you'll have to pay attention to when you are doing all this stuff. I am trying to find that one single line in that stupid piece of hair. Where is it? Background? Yes. Okay, and then you can also do a little bit of line work in the pants by erasing away a little bit more of the folds. And you can treat it just the way you would treat if we were to draw this using the black lines. Some line thickness variation is very important too. See that? See, even this artist has some value separation, so I'm just gonna help you do that real quick. This is totally not how you're supposed to do it, but I'm trying to help you do this quickly, so we're gonna bring back some light in the pants. So I'm gonna create a weird shape first. Yeah, you don't know where to do it? That's fine, let's do it real quick right now. So we're going to figure out where our shadows are first, because that's the solid sections, right? So our shadow would be probably right about here. Let's get our reference out again. Shadow, some shadow points. This whole section right here. What I'm basically doing is kind of stretching the shadows into the folds a little bit, connecting it with the big shadow. The big shadow's right there. Okay, so those are your major shadows first. Another major shadow is right underneath that leg right here, connecting it to the legs. And then afterwards, this is where our responsibility is to create that line work. And in order to differentiate it from the white shirt, we have to do it a lot closer in order to mimic that shade of black, right? So I'm going close and even closer for the shadow areas compared to, say, the shirt. So start with your basic cross hatching. It's okay if you go outside, we can always erase away. Then we're going to decide where's those places are to be darker. Maybe right here. Maybe right here to connect the shadows into the rest of them. So I'm going to make sure I follow the same direction, still doing very fast lines. And when you're doing it, you'll notice there are some sections that don't get hit by your lines properly, and that's where you want to focus your most efforts on. I'm also going to try to recreate the roundness of her leg. So what I'm going to do is we're going to make the shadow underneath her leg right here a little bit darker. And this time I'm switching directions that I'm lifting up the pen in. Instead of going this way, I went upwards in order to create that very soft, very faded out look near the middle of the pants. And this method does take a lot longer than, say, before the other one that you used. So that's why you want to be, you want to judge whether or not you want to put this effort into the pants. Maybe your focus is going to be the shirt and stuff, so maybe the pants can be all black. You can even simplify a little bit more. Maybe we want to make this whole section of the leg more black shadows, in order to make your life a little easier and to also have a little bit more contrast against the rest of the legs. We're gonna have that foot in shadow too, so we get a nice contrast. And that way we can kind of cheat a little bit. It's not really cheating, but I'm also blending out that shadow from this to the rest of it. Okay, so this part, you're gonna see I've changed directions. And that's just in order for us to create the illusion that now this leg is going down. So instead of going all the way this way, I'm just going to change a little bit direction right there and then continue back on. And because this section right here is the highlight, right? I'm going to do less tight looking lines. I'm going to try to create the shadow that's going on with the knee. So right here, maybe I'm going to color a little bit in order to create a very dark shadow. And then we're going to start blending, meaning I'm going to add some more lines as we go farther away from that super dark section. Trying to make sure we're going still somewhat in the same direction as the original cross hatching in order for it to maintain that very even line look. Even my hand is getting tired, so I could totally understand if you don't choose this method. But there are some people who really enjoy the whole cross hatching method, so they go ham on all this line work. And then oftentimes they might even do a little bit more shadow underneath the chair. So sometimes they might do that too. You could even consider shading this section a little bit more in shadow. Oops. Yes. So we have a little bit more differentiation between the top half of the body, like the head and everything, versus everything that's underneath it. So I'm basically just kind of separating the pants, the waist area, and her upper torso. So I'm not gonna bother about how her shirt kind of tucks into her pants like that. I'm just gonna hide it a little bit so we get a very clean silhouette, very readable thumbnail, if you can say. Top half very white, very bright, bottom half dark. So it's up to you whether you want this way or this way. Honestly, up to you. Let's flip it over, flip it out, see if we can see it. Her knee is definitely a little bit small. Her foot probably should go out a little bit more this way. And then we get more of the upper leg right here. Slightly better, I think. We could do the same thing here. That's the stupid thing about if you mess up hatch marking. It's game over. Gotta redo the whole stupid hatching. So maybe something like that. We'll just pretend that works, okay? So I would just make the knee a little bit bigger because it is kind of pushed towards us. So you should get really big knee right here. And then that should be it. Let's look at before and after real quick. Before. The hair is very, very messy, no direction. Line work could use a little help. Proportion wise, it's not too bad. Your knee just needs to get bigger right here, so this top part of the foot leg needs to liquefy it. To after, a little bit more interesting. You get very separated forms using line work. And it's up to you whether you want to keep the black pants. This is very 2D, very ink wash looking picture, whereas this is very sketch oriented, very a little bit closer maybe to your reference. This one, it's just up to you, okay? And I will be saving these. See just how much that added line weight pops out your picture so much more. Me too. Okay, I will save this and I will upload this into the drive and you guys can view it at your own leisure. Maybe you can slow things down, watch the stream again if you missed some stuff that I talked about, or if you just, I don't know, enjoy watching streams in the background. I don't know what to do. Okay, I will finish recording the tutorial by this weekend, but hopefully, and then I'll edit and hopefully we'll get it out before the end of the month. So thank you so much for your patience, everyone. I know I'm super slow on art stuff, but I definitely have a lot of personal work that I want to get done. I just haven't had time to kind of bunker down and actually work on it because I'm just tired from work, you know? So I feel you guys. I feel you guys when you're too tired to produce stuff for me to critique. I get it. But we're all gonna try our best to create at least one piece of art each month, okay? I'll see you next time. Bye bye, everybody. Bye bye.